Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Cockayne. I'm the New South Wales Anti-Slavery Commissioner. Please let me know if you can't hear me or if you have any trouble viewing the slides. We have about half an hour today for this briefing session for potential submitters of proposals to become the Anti-Slavery Forum Delivery Partner for the 4th edition of the Anti-Slavery Forum that we will hold here in New South Wales in November this year. I'd like to acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders as Australia's First Nations and custodians of the land and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'm speaking to you today from Gadigal land. First Nations peoples here in the Sydney area and beyond throughout New South Wales have survived practices that today would constitute modern slavery, and in many cases they continue to wrestle with the lasting and intergenerational impacts of the legacies of those practices. Before I tell you a little bit about the Anti-Slavery Forum, I might actually just also tell you a little bit about anti-slavery generally. I know that some of you who are joining may not be specialists in this area. We have legislation in New South Wales that created my role several years ago and that empowers me and my team to take steps to try and strengthen our anti-slavery response across New South Wales. That includes a range of functions such as providing support and assistance to survivors of modern slavery, advocacy to government, monitoring government efforts, particularly around procurement, awareness raising, and promoting good practice in the private sector. Modern slavery offences are defined in Schedule 2 of the Modern Slavery Act 2018 of New South Wales, and they include things like slavery, servitude, sexual servitude, forced labour, debt bondage, human trafficking, organ trafficking, deceptive recruiting. We think that there are perhaps 16,400 people in New South Wales who have suffered or are suffering modern slavery. What's common to those people in many situations is that their vulnerability is being deliberately exploited, and that's possible because institutional safeguards are weak. The common experience for many survivors of modern slavery is that although they weren't legally owned, they were treated as if they were owned by another person or organisation. And that loss of agency is really critical to the experience. So our efforts in New South Wales are very much aimed at helping survivors recover their agency. And the Anti-Slavery Forum is a key part of how we are building a community in New South Wales, intending to strengthen anti-slavery efforts with a particular focus on stronger relationships with survivors. It's a twice-yearly event that I lead, working with my team. We've done 3 of these events, as you can see at the bottom of the slide. The first one was an in-person event, very successful in May of last year, in person in Sydney. In November, we had an online edition over 2 days. We have an upcoming version, the third edition, on the 20th and 21st of May, and you can find more about that on our socials. In fact, registrations have just opened today for that event across two days. And then the 4th edition will be in person again in November of this year. The aim is to bring together government, unions, business, academia, civil society, and of course, people with lived experience, with a view to fostering a community of purpose to combat modern slavery. And building a community of purpose is one of my 5 strategic priorities as part of my strategic plan for the current 3-year period, which you can find on my website, on the Department of Communities and Justice website. We're looking for a forum delivery partner to help us deliver the November edition of the Anti-Slavery Forum. The key responsibilities of this partner will be to work with us to co-design the program and content, and we will ensure that survivors play an active, remunerated and dignity-affirming part of that process. To secure and manage a venue, and my colleague Seb has done a wonderful job at sketching out for you the rough area that we're contemplating that this would be held in. It is an approximation, I don't think we're looking for something to take place in the middle of Botany Bay, for example. Might be a bit difficult to get to, but that gives you a sense of the kind of corridor we're looking at venues. The delivery partner will also manage the logistics, the vendors, the registration and ticketing and marketing for the event. They'll oversee audio-visual accessibility and trauma-informed approach. So that's coordinating various counsellors and so on the day, and deliver a safe, engaging and impactful event. They'll of course also have project management and reporting obligations reporting to us. We've offered you an indicative budget and some venue requirements to help you think through if this is the right kind of thing for you. So the indicative budget is around $80,000 to $125,000. That does not include the cost of the venue, the catering, payment to lived experience participants, or counselling support. So we will pay those costs directly. The delivery partner will help us identify the venue and secure it, but we will be the contracting party for those particular costs, and we will pay those. So those are above and beyond the $80,000 to $125,000. Other costs, including the costs of your services, if you're a successful bidder, would come out of that indicative budget. In terms of the venue, we've offered some parameters of the kinds of venue we're hoping to secure. These are not chiseled in stone, but we want to give you a sense of the kind of event we're trying to run. We're looking for a venue with at least one plenary room of about maybe 150 people, and also then 3 breakout rooms that those 150 people or so could move into. So we're not necessarily planning to have 300 people on site at once. We're looking more at 150 to 200 on site at any given time. It needs to be accessible, both in terms of access for people living with a disability, but also in terms of public transport should be nearby. I guess if parking is an issue, you might want to factor that in. There should be accommodation nearby if it's something that people are likely to travel to. We would prefer it had a little outdoor space. We find that this is important, in particular for survivors of modern slavery, to feel they have access to fresh air and to an open space that's not enclosed. It needs to have the right AV set up for a conference of this scale. And it should, in general, offer what we would describe as a trauma-informed environment. So you might want to think about who is in the cohort of participants and the kinds of triggers that might overstimulate them or cause concerns about past experiences. That might mean, for example, that some hotel environments might not be suited to this kind of thing. But it might also have to do with the physical ambience of the particular venue that you have in mind. And we're hoping as part of the program to have one meal or awards ceremony. It could be a lunch, it could be an evening meal that brings in not only the conference participants, but potentially some people from outside as well. So we're looking for a venue that can host or is near a site that can host up to perhaps 300 people during the forum. I'll go through the process by which you can lodge bids shortly before we open up for questions. Once you've submitted a proposal, these are the selection criteria we will be using. So the bids that we invite and receive will be scored against these criteria. Price will be 50%. Prior experience and expertise organising related events will be 30%. Readiness to commence will be 10%. Domain expertise will be 5%. And certain modern slavery risk management questions that we will put to you in the template will be another 5%. We like to practice what we preach in terms of identifying and responsibly managing modern slavery risk in our supply chains here at the office. So here are the key dates as we envisage them for the application process. A formal expression of interest, if you haven't already lodged one, is due by the 18th of April 2025. Although if you're on this call, it probably means you've lodged an EOI. We will then provide a proposal template that sets out the questions we're asking you to respond to, which will respond, to be clear, to these criteria. And will also address the kinds of factors that I raised earlier. So asking you about where you propose in terms of venue, how your budget will break down, those kinds of things. We reserve the right to provide that proposal template only to selected invited participants. So an expression of interest does not entitle you to receive that proposal. But if we do provide you the proposal template, you will then have till the 28th of April to prepare and submit your proposal. We intend to identify through the selection criteria that I indicated earlier, a preferred applicant by around the 4th of May. And then we anticipate it will take 2 or 3 weeks working with the preferred applicant to agree and conclude the terms of the partnership. So that is the overview of the process that we envisage, but I suspect there will be questions. You're more than welcome to put a question to me directly. If you'd like to, please just use the raise hand function so that I can see who'd like to come in. You're also welcome to put a question in the chat if you prefer to ask your question that way. If you don't want to ask your question in public, you feel free to contact us by email. In general, we will seek to make the same information available to all parties. So if we are asked questions privately by email, or indeed we will actually do the same for these questions, we will summarize these, de-identified with our answers, and circulate that to those who've expressed interest so they have the same information in order to base the preparation of their proposal. All right, are there any questions? Yes, Rosemary, please. I can't hear you just yet. I think you're muted.
Apologies.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, James. I wondered when we will find out if we're eligible to submit a proposal, if there's a rough date.
We will do that as soon as we can after the 18th. We want to maximize your time. You're, of course, welcome to begin thinking through what you want to put in your application. We know also it's Easter period, some school holidays and so on. And we'll try to keep the template not overly extensive as a result. The criteria are fairly clear. You can already begin to think that through now, but we'll try to get that template to you as soon as we can after the 18th. We're working on it already. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I see a question from, I think it's Tom.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. Okay, 3 questions, okay. When you say the proposed deadline will be the 28th of April, I'm going to assume it'll be COB, yeah?
11:59 p.m. I would assume.
Yeah, yep. That's fine. Second question
Sydney time. Sydney time.
Yeah, that's fine. Second question is that can the response be in our document format and we follow the questions, or will it be, no, fill this template in?
Good question. Tentatively, you can use your own format, but you will need to respond to the questions we put. And obviously, if you don't, that will affect how you are assessed, evaluated.
And the third question is, when you talk about accommodation, roughly, and that's your experience you've had in the past, how many folks of those 150 people are likely to be seeking accommodation? Are we talking like 30% maybe? I know it's going to depend on where the location is, but just roughly, if it's over 2 days, what percentage tend to want accommodation?
It will depend heavily where it is, but let me be clear, we don't expect you to provide accommodation. It's simply that, yeah, I understand you're thinking about availability. The one thing I would say is that there probably needs to be a diversity of price points for people to stay in. If it's outside Greater Sydney, then obviously the number of people that would need accommodation would go up, I would think.
Yeah, cool. That's fine.
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, you're very welcome. There is at least one question from Sarah. Sarah, you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Actually, one of the questions was just answered, so thank you for that earlier question. I have two questions. Do you have a preference for, I'm sorry, I did come on a couple of minutes late 'cause of the time variation, but whether the conference is, which days the conference is on, so the end of a week, the beginning of a week, midweek, and do we avoid weekends, is one question. And the second question is, we're not based in New South Wales. Are we still eligible?
So the first question, I don't think we will require you to specify days in your proposal. That's something we would address during the development and delivery of the project. Secondly, yes, you are still eligible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tara.
Hi, everyone. Just a question I'm reading about, we manage the registration, ticketing and RSVPs. So a couple of, two questions relating to this. Is this free ticketing or is it sponsored? Do certain people pay, or what have you done in the past?
Very good question. Free ticketing. We may, my office may support the attendance of certain individuals, most likely people with lived experience, but you would not be expected to administer that.
Okay.
It might be that we need to include in the registration process a series of questions that informs people of that possibility and allows them essentially to apply for that. So you may need to sequester those applications for tickets, and we might handle those. But yes, the other thing I would say here is that in the past, we have been massively, not oversubscribed, but there is far more interest to attend than we can accommodate. So part of what will be required here is for us to work with the delivery partner to figure out a process for managing
Waitlist.
not only a wait list, but potentially an application for a spot. So it might not be first come, first served. In the past, we have essentially asked people to express interest, and then we have selected in order to ensure an appropriate and equitable balance in the attendance.
With it being free, do you find you get a dropout ratio? So we should say on the 150, take 200 registrations. What has your kind of dropout ratio been in the past?
In general, I have 20 years plus experience organising events, and I'd say it's pretty much standard. So it's between 20 and 30%, but then there are other micro factors, venue, day and time, novelty. I think this event has a very high standing in the sector, without tooting our horn, and there are people on here who can disabuse you of that notion should they care to. But in general, we anticipate very strong interest in participation in person.
Okay.
One of the challenges, to be fair, is because of the diversity of audiences that seek to engage with this material. It can be difficult to predict which cohorts will attend when, and that's a question for program design. In the first edition, we essentially had a focus on commercial activities on one day and everything else on the other day. I think going forward, we're interested to consider a variety of models.
Okay. And then I guess that brings me to my question also relating to accessibility. Obviously, some people might not be able to afford, so you might sponsor certain people, but would you consider live streaming or doing a virtual ticket for certain segments or slots to allow, more people to participate than just your 150 in person, or is this purely in person and you have your virtual at different times at the other slots you mentioned?
We would consider it. We don't require it, but we'd certainly consider it.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's it from me. Thanks all.
Thank you. Excellent questions, Tara. I think it's Emily.
Yes, hi. Thanks for taking us through everything. Had, I think, 2 questions. One was in the EOI document that you prepared already. As part of the next response, you're after a rough proposed program for the event. My understanding was it will be quite collaborative for whoever you end up choosing, but so I just wanted to know the level of detail that you're expecting in the initial proposals.
We're not expecting anything.
Oh, okay.
That's up to you.
All right. Good answer. And then I guess my other question was around, obviously, like the budget that you've popped in the EOI document doesn't include venue hire and venue costs.
Correct.
Will you be able to give us a ballpark for what that is so we can help determine which venues we choose, or is that kind of open for us to come back to with the proposal?
I think at this stage that's open. It's something that will need to be developed possibly during the negotiation with the preferred applicant, but also potentially thereafter.
All right, beautiful. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, as I said, you are welcome to come back to us by email later on if you have further questions. We will summarize all of these questions and my answers and put them in a document de-identified for circulation to everybody before the 18th. I guess we should specify when questions close. At the moment, unless I revise this, which will be circulated, I would say it would close at the same time as EOIs, so that we have a level playing field for that period when you're preparing your applications. Rosemary, sneaking another one in quickly.
Apologies. Is it up to the applicant to ascertain how much time they will be committing to this project, or is that going to be provided by the office?
Oh, that's very much a key consideration, I think, as you design your budget, recognizing that we've given you defined selection criteria.
Mm-hmm.
It's also up to you to consider how to structure the delivery itself. Program could be over 2 or potentially 3 days.
Okay, cheers.
Good, excellent questions. Thank you very much, everybody, for your interest and for helping us think through these important issues. We will circulate a link to this recording so that you can watch this back if you want to with popcorn. We will also circulate the summarized Q&A from now and from any subsequent questions that we receive closer to the 18th. And we very much hope to receive some full proposals from some of you or all of you. Thank you very much for your interest. Good afternoon.